we are doing contracts on a regular basis without knowing that we are contracts, which will fall under the Indian Contract Act. So in this very video, we're going to understand what are the contracts that we have been doing in our everyday life, yet we are unaware of. So we will understand how that is linked with Indian Contract Act. We will very understand what is the very definition of Indian Contract Act, how and what makes a contract, and all such necessary details. So by the end of the video, we will be understanding what is a contract, what is its relevance under Indian Contract Act, and so like other information. So let's get started. So let us move into the introductory part of contracts. Contracts are a fundamental part of everyday life. As I said, we are doing contracts in our everyday life, from waking up to going to bed. For example, buying groceries is contract, calling for a pizza is a contract. So these are various form of contracts that have different kinds of forms. Contracts are part of our daily routine. So it is a part of our daily routine. We cannot live a life without having contracts with the other person. Rise like from everyday action like shopping, renting, using services, all are some kind of contract that we are dealing with. Agreements can be oral or written, express or implied. So these are the very forms of contract. For example, it can be oral, it can be written, it can be expressed, or it can be implied. So these are the very forms of contract. Now we'll understand what is a contract in a proper definition. Then we will understand what are the key features or key point that we can derive from the exact paragraph, and we can understand it for better understanding. So whenever we move into knowing some alien concept, it is very much necessary to understand the topic from the very beginning itself, from the very root itself, in order to understand that very concept completely. So that is my mantra, that is my approach. So I've been trying to make the concept understandable from the very beginning itself. So let us first understand what makes a contract, or what is a contract. A contract is an agreement between two or more parties that is enforceable by law. It says between two or more parties. You cannot have contract with yourself. You cannot have contract with one singular person only. In order to make a contract, there has to be two-person at least, or more than two-person. With single person can contract or agreement can be made. It may be written, verbal, express, or implied. So these are the various forms that contracts can be made, whether it's purchasing a product or renting a house. The moment there is an agreement with legal obligation, the contract is formed. So this is the very example of how contract is formed. The moment we bought any groceries and there is a transaction of the goods and the money, that makes a valid contract, and it is enforceable by law. In case someone breaches the contract by saying that I will not pay you the money for the goods that I have bought from you, that cannot happen, because we have Indian Contract Act to govern all kind of contracts, all kind of transactions. So that breach will lead to some kind of compensation or punishment under the Indian Contract Act. Now we will understand or extract what are the key features or the key points that we can derive from this very paragraph. A contract is a legally enforceable agreement. So it is legally enforceable. That means it is enforceable by law. If someone breaches your contract, you have the remedy to ask for this compensation or ask for a remedy under Indian Contract Act. Can be oral, written, express, or implied. So these are the very forms of contract. Examples: buying goods, leasing property, hiring services. So these are the examples of kind of contract that we can have. Now let's move into what is the law of contract. So that is the very definition of what contract is in normal language. Now we'll understand its very relevance under the Indian Contract Act. In India, the law that governs all contracts as the Indian Contract Act 1872. So in India, if there is any contract happening, all the contracts will be governed under Indian Contract Act. It provides the basic rules regarding contract formation, performance, and enforcement. So it is the very duty of the Indian Contract Act to look after the formation, performance, and enforcement of the contract. It ensures fairness and clarity in contractual dealings. So it is the very aim of the law of contract to make it smooth and to have a clarity in the transactions. All other kinds is covered under Indian Contract Act. Now let us understand what are the key points that we need to remember. Governed by Indian Contract Act 1872. So all kind of contract across the India will be governed only under Indian Contract Act. enforced from 1st September 1872. So before 1872, there was no existence of such law of contract. After 1872, from 1st September, this law of contract came into force, and after that, all kind of contracts will be governed under Indian Contract Act. Applies across India, so it is applicable in India. Provides rule for making and enforcing contracts. So they provides rule, essential, what can be done, what should be done. All the other necessary stuff is covered under Indian Contract Act. Now we'll move into the related laws. While the Indian Contract Act deals with general principles, certain areas like the sale of goods and transfer of property are governed by other specific laws. So Indian Contract Act governs all other rules or the general principles, but in matters like sale of goods or property, for that we have different set of rules and they are kind of complement to Indian Contract Act. These ensure detailed and specialized legal treatment for different kinds of transactions. So they have separated them from the Indian Contract Act to give them more visualized and a personalized treatment. Now let us understand what are the other related laws that is complement to Indian Contract Act. It is Sale of Goods Act 1933 for sale of movable goods. So all kind of dealings, all kind of contract which deals with sale of movable goods will be falling or will be governed under Sale of Goods Act 1930. Then we have Transfer of Property Act 1882 for sale, lease, mortgage, gift, movable and immovable property. So to deal with all kind of things, we will be falling under Transfer of Property Act. These laws complement the Indian Contract Act. So this is the very uh, complementary laws to the Indian Contract Act. Now let's move into the original structure of Indian Contract Act. The Indian Contract Act, when enacted in 1872, contained 266 sections. So when for the first time the Indian Contract Act came in force, today it has 266 sections. Over time, parts of it were repealed and enacted as separate laws to handle specialized areas more effectively. But by keeping in mind the changing dimensions of the society, some section has been repealed or some section has been given different treatment in order to give them more specialized treatment. The remaining sections focus mainly on general principle and special type of contract. So the general principles that Indian contract covers mainly talks about what are the contracts, what are the essential, what are the necessities, what can be done if someone breaches the contract, what are the parties that is not eligible to make the contract. So this is the very kind of topics that Indian contract Act covers under general principles. Now let us understand the key points. Originally had 266 sections. As I said, in order to understand anything completely, we need to understand it from the very root of it. So when the Indian Contract Act was enacted at first, it has 266 sections, which we need to remember if we are preparing an answer on that particular topic. Sections divided into six parts. So this section has been divided into six parts to make it more specific in manner. From 1 to section 75, it deals with general principles. For example, as I said, what is contract? Mm, what are the person that is eligible for contract? What it is essentials? All kind of general principle will be covered under section 1 to 75. Then we have 76 to 123 that deals with sale of good, which is repeal, because for that we have specific set of rules or specific set of laws. Then we have section 124 to 147 that deals with indemnity and guarantee. Then we have 148, 181, what is bailment and pledge. Then we have 182 to 38 agency. Then we have 239 to 60 partnership, which is also repealed because for this also we have separate set of rules. So these are the areas that Indian Contract Act covered. So we'll be understanding all this in detail in my other videos. So if you haven't subscribed my channel, so do it so that you get updated with all the information relating to the Indian Contract Act. So let's move into the other slide. What the Indian Contract Act covers, as I said, from section 1 to section 75. Earlier it has 266, but now it covers only the from section 1 to 75, that is the general principles. The Indian Contract Act under Section 1 to 75 lays down the foundation of how contracts are formed, executed, and enforced in India. As I said, it deals with how contract is formed, what are the parties, what are the essentials. So all necessary information that needs in order to make a contract that deals with from section 1 to section 75. It explains the essential element that makes an agreement legally valid and the rules that apply when there is a breach. As I said, all kind of necessary information is falling under section 1 to section 75. This provision helps ensure fairness, accountability, and clarity in all types of agreements, from personal transaction to large commercial deals. So, what is their aim? Their aim is to have a fairness, accountability, and clarity in making the transaction, be it a personal one, be it a commercial one. So let's see the points. Cover section 1 to 75 of the Act, that is general principles, deals with general principles of contract law. Topics include, so what are the topics that Indian contract law include? That is offer and acceptance. So in our other video, we'll be understanding or covering what is offer and acceptance under Indian Contract Act, what is consideration, what is consent, capacity to contract, lawful object, performance feature. These are the very necessities or essential that makes a contract valid and legally enforceable. So now let us conclude whatever we have understood relating to the contract or law of contract in this video. Contracts are at the core of all human transaction, whether personal or professional. So contract are something that we cannot deny. We have to deal with it with our everyday life. The Indian Contract Act provides a framework to ensure these agreements are fair, clear, and enforceable. So Indian Contract Act helps us to have a clear, smooth transaction with the other parties. And contracts form part of everyday life. As I said, we cannot live a life denying or avoiding contract. Governed by Indian Contracts Act 1872, so all kind of contracts across the India will be governed under India's Contract Act 1872, builds a strong base in legal understanding. So Indian Contract Act provides us kind of remedy or relaxation if anything goes wrong, or it gives us a kind of surety in relating to contracts. So this is all about Indian Contracts Act. In this video, I have tried to cover what is a contract, what are the essential part that makes a contract legally enforceable, what are its essential. So in our other video, we'll be covering all other essential stuff relating to Indian Contract Act. So if you find this video valuable and worth watching, please do share and subscribe and do comment what are the topics that you are unsure about, so that I can give more understanding of that very topic. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching video. Seeing you soon.